the Nerd Show. Podcast Radio. She's a nerd, he's a nerd, talking about what we know. Nerd Podcast Radio. We're all nerds, we're all nerds. Buckle up, cause here we go. Nerd Podcast Radio. Welcome everybody to the Nerd Podcast Radio. Welcome everybody to the Nerd Podcast Radio.
Welcome to Nerd Podcast Radio, your nerd home away from home.
Welcome to Nerd Podcast Radio. I am back. Super Pig and Brian here, joined by David Theobald III.
Hi, everybody.
And the Nusty Rail is here. I mean, the Rusty Nail is here.
Hey, everyone.
I am going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to talk about the topic we're going to do in full detail. We're going to talk about robots, actually. But first,
we're going to play everybody's favorite game, What's Nerdy With You, where we talk about the nerdy things we've done over the last couple of weeks, and we vote using Mike Myler's patented widget system.
And I'm going to do the cruelest thing I've done in a long time. David, you go first. David, you go first.
Okay. Unfortunately, I didn't have all that much nerdy stuff to do. I spent the last week or so in the hospital as I had some issues come up with an open sore on my foot. Yay, fun times. I'm healthy now and on the mend, so everything's good. But it was a rough 7 days and 6 nights.
I'm just so happy you're back. I shared on Discord. I was like, "You're welcome to just get some rest if you want. You don't have to be there." And you're like, "No."
Oh, fuck that! I'm here. Let's go.
Yeah, you almost could have been part robot.
I mean, possibly, but usually, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm like 1% cow now. They used a bovine skin graft to help help me heal. So,
Oh, is that right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the $50 sized area that they had to remove on my foot is covered by a bovine skin graft currently. So
Interesting.
yeah,
I didn't know there was such a thing.
me neither. It was news to me.
Is it easy to move your toes?
Yeah, I still have full sensation and everything. I see what you did there, jackass. So I mean, I guess that was the quote unquote nerdy thing I did.
What about you, Rusty? Normally we get the guest go first, but you're not really a guest anymore. You're a guest host.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what really nerdy thing I've done recently. I started to get real into a channel on YouTube called Secret Galaxy.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, they started with like cartoons and they started with toys, but they'll do like the history behind like Blockbuster or like, the show Airwolf or A-Team. And it's usually a pretty good dive into not only like the show itself, but like people behind it, the concept that made it, and the people that created the concept, why it failed. And usually shows fail because somebody didn't have the license for something that they were trying to do.
It is my kind of channel. I have subscribed.
Gotcha. Well, good. And I guess the other thing would be, in a weird coincidence, about 5 days ago, I downloaded MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries.
Oh, nice.
Because it was on sale.
Nice. I've always been a fan of the MechWarrior series.
Yeah. And we're talking about robots today, so.
I think I had the first one.
Okay, yeah.
The first robot?
The first Mech Warrior.
Oh. Sorry,
I was quite a ways to get the first robot.
That's why I was like, what?
Yeah, I think I had the first one. I think like when the game first came out, like Windows 95.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I think it also came out on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it had like, yeah, I totally did have that game. It with like polygonal graphics. 1989.
Oh, wow.
I'll share mine. So I just got back from vacation. We went to Bend, Oregon. I posted this in Discord. It's not my main nerdy thing. But I want to share it. I went to the last Blockbuster in the world. We were just talking about that before we started recording. I didn't go in. I just took a picture out front, so I don't really count that. I just didn't really have
You go
any.
all the way to Bend, Oregon, and you don't even go inside the building, man.
I
That's just
had no
Well,
interest in
that's
walking around the
because
video store.
if they saw Brian, they charge him $37,000 for that copy of The Matrix 2 that he still didn't bring back.
You know,
And those late fees are killer.
you know what's funny is I've never been a patron of Blockbuster.
Really?
Yeah, God, I don't remember the name of the video store I was a member. Hollywood Video.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood Video, and I would go to like the video section at the drugstore. Like the
Oh,
drugstore
yeah.
chain had like video sections because they would be like really cheap. They would have like dollar rentals.
I remember the really weird video rental store they had on military bases. I think all the slip covers were white.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, I was
I,
pretty young, but I just remember walking into it and everything had a white cover on it.
I actually remember when I was a kid and all the video stores were like privately owned before they had all the big chains like Blockbuster and stuff. And
Oh, yeah.
I used to go get my NES games rented at the video stores. And the owners of the video store that I went to sold me two like grocery bags filled with Atari 2600 games. And I was like pleased as hell to get those.
Nice.
Nice.
How many copies of ET did you end up with?
I had one already, actually. I had an ET when they first came out. Like we got ET, like I owned ET and never really figured out how to play that game. I think
Oh,
that's why it was so terrible.
yeah.
I hear you kind of couldn't play it, and that was part of the problem.
Oh, no, you can. It's not intuitive at all, and it was in no way ever explained anywhere on how to actually do it. You had to literally
Oh,
just try everything and figure it out. Like,
okay.
I've seen videos of people playing it, and it's like, how in the good blue fuck are you supposed to figure this out on your own?
And since it was Atari graphics, it was like there was no context because you had really no clue what the hell you were doing.
Yep.
I think they were trying to be like Adventure because Adventure was sort of like that, but because there were levels that it was like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
But the context was that you were a dot moving around a maze.
Yeah. The term unplayable comes to mind.
Yeah.
It always
Uh,
reminds me of a Cove Monkeys episode where they talk about
Uh,
E.T.
I love that show. I miss that show
They
so
gave
much.
they gave him tickets for an advanced screening, and he sells them so he can like go out drinking. And he comes back, and the game is nothing like the movie.
Yep.
but the actual nerdy thing I did, we were looking for things to do, and I was like, "You want to go to a petting zoo?" And the entire idea was, let's go feed goats. Like, let's do something different than going out to eat or going to the movies or something. Let's just go do something different. So it was like petting zoo sounds like a neat thing to do, and we found the only petting zoo in the area. It was about an hour drive out, and it was awesome. I got to pet a wallaby.
Really?
Interesting.
They had wallabies and they had cavies, Patagonian cavies. They're sort of like capybaras, except they have skinny little legs. And some amazing things happened when we were there. They had a three-ringed armadillo that I got to hold and carry around, and it was absolutely amazing to hold this little, very, very affectionate armadillo that like was
Aw.
like, please hold. Well, I think it was because I'm cold, please cuddle me. There were a bunch of families with kids there, and one of the kids, I guess, got bored with the armadillo and put it down, and the armadillo was scurrying all over the place. It was super cute because it moves really fast, like for its size, and you can't see its feet under it, so it looks like it's just scurrying around.
Meh. Nice.
Yeah, the getting to hold an armadillo was really cool, and got to see a little girl like fight her paralyzing fear of snakes to hold a snake, and she did it.
Good for her.
It was so cool because she was like, I don't want to hold the snake because I'm scared. And then I'm holding the snake and she comes up and she goes, maybe I could hold the snake, but maybe you could like just hold the tail out. And her whole body was shaking. And I'm like, are you sure? And eventually she had the whole snake in her hand. She held it for a little while and she was like, okay, take it, please. And I was like, that was awesome that you did that.
Yeah.
So the things that happened, so okay, so I will acknowledge that there may have been some Brian luck because I got to witness something that I don't think many people get to witness that I think was probably one of the most awesome, funny things I've ever seen.
Okay.
So there was one of the moms there approached the Patagonian cavy and I guess the Patagonian cavy really liked her,
Okay.
and it stood up and just fire hose peed on this lady.
Nice.
It got her in the face. It got her all over her shirt.
No.
Lovely.
Just say there's
Guttural
some hello where I'm
scream.
from.
That's how you
I
know.
have
That's how you know it likes you.
I have to give the lady some credit because she was laughing about it and was like, I can't believe this happened. And when we told Grandma Rose, the owner of the place, Grandma Rose was like, that's so funny. She's never done that to a stranger before. She usually only does that to my husband. Or he usually only does that. He must have liked you. But they had an emu that I fed. They had a big Japanese pig that I don't remember what the breed was. They had llamas and I got to see an old lady wrestle a kangaroo, which was crazy. Before we could go in to see the wallaby, she had to get the male kangaroo out because I guess the male kangaroo can get possessive over the females.
Yeah.
And this little old lady just grabs this kangaroo and drags it out. And the kangaroo obviously is like 10 times stronger than her. And he's just like, he's fighting her. And she managed to get him out. And it was incredible. Yeah, they had a boxing bag. They had a heavy bag with a hole in it from this kangaroo.
I bet.
Jeez.
No,
From its
it was wild. It was such a cool thing to do. I'm so glad we went to the petting zoo. And I have to say, if you're traveling and you can't think of things to do, even if you don't have kids with you, activities that are designed for kids usually are fun.
Generally, yes.
Oh, and I got to feed and pet a porcupine, which was cool.
I didn't know you could pet a porcupine.
You have to do it very carefully.
I would assume so, yes.
Grandma Rose got a quill in her hand, and I could tell that she's used to working with kids all the time because she was like, "Oh, I got a quill." And she just pulls this quill out of her hand and she's like, "What you have to remember is it's not her fault."
No, that's
That's right.
good.
And it
That's
shows me this
good.
hand that's just ripped up from interaction with different animals.
Oh, geez.
One of the wallabies got out when she opened the cage and just flew around the farm, just so happy that it got out. And I guess one of the other dads helped the Rose's husband catch it. I tried to corner it so it would go back, and it squared up in front of me. And I just went, no,
No.
I'm not going to try.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was neat. I'm glad we did it. I always like to look for things like zoos and odd attractions. Yeah, next time we go there, there's a high desert museum I want to check out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, growing up in California, I don't really think of Oregon as being desert, but I guess it's mostly desert.
Yeah, because of the elevation, or is it
There's just big areas that are desert.
is it like a rain shadow desert where on the other side of the mountains it just never rains?
The only technicality I know is they're high deserts.
Okay.
Yeah, I know like driving around, it's very different than driving around the Mojave. Like the trees are different looking and the scrub is different looking, but I mean, it's sandy and there's scrub and there's a lot more trees than I'm used to. There's no cactus or anything like that. Yeah, rain shadow makes sense because there are a lot of mountains around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never thought about it either.
we drove through this area called the Oregon Criterion where you can see like every mountain range in the area and it was very cool.
Neat.
It's a
Nice.
BLM land.
Hmm.
So there are three of us, so we got to do some voting.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have, yeah. David, you go first. You get
Okay.
4.
I'm going to give Rusty 2 and Brian 2.
Okay. And
And Rusty?
I think I will also give each of you two because David had a very hard week, and hearing about that lady getting peed on is the funniest thing I've heard all day.
That is really good, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was great. I'm gonna give all mine to David. I know it's pity,
All right.
but I've been thinking about you nonstop, so I need to give you my widgets.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yay.
Yeah, it
No,
gives you.
no. Stay in the closet. I won.
Oh,
Saves us some shipping costs.
so what are we talking about? I forget.
Robots.
Robots. So Rusty, you
Yes.
tend to be a very smart expert about most things. And I want
Okay.
to ask, I've heard that robot is like some old Polish term that means slave, right?
Yeah, it's It's actually Czech.
Is it
Karl,
Czech?
yeah, Karl Čapek, Czech playwright, coined it in the 1920s, I believe 1920 or 21, from the word robota, which means to be a slave or to work or to labor.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Was it originally a political term?
I don't think so. He coined it for his play Rossum's Universal Robots, which definitely gets into like some issues with like labor politics for sure. But I don't know if it was political, like a political talking point at the time.
I don't know. When did it become? Because originally the term for like the term for like a mechanical humanoid was like automaton, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now you start getting into like the stories of like the mechanical Turk that played chess, but it was really just a little person inside a box.
You know, some of those griffs are almost more impressive than building the robot.
Yeah, having a puppet that looked like a person is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor Who did a play on it where they had a Cyberman that played chess and there was a little person inside controlling it. And the little person was Warwick Davis.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, yeah, it was Nightmare in Silver. It was the episode that was written by Neil Gaiman.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah, yeah,
I
Warwick
haven't,
Davis was a guest star in that one. It was good.
nice. I
Yeah.
haven't watched a lot of Doctor Who recently.
Yeah, it's not considered one of the good Doctor Who episodes, but I like that one. Like
Which one?
publicly, like most people. Nightmare in Silver, the Neil Gaiman Cyberman episode.
Ah,
Because I brought up the Mechanical Turk, and they did the Mechanical Turk in that episode where Warwick Davis was piloting a Cyberman to play chess.
nice.
No, we were
Now,
trying. Go ahead, Rusty.
oh, I was just going to say, no, the Daleks from Doctor Who are technically cybernetic. They're organic beings inside of mechanical shells.
Yeah, they're like an organic being driving a tank.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think there's some cyber like one of the things about things like the Daleks is the lore is 50 years old. So like
Mm,
when they started, I think it was like a tank around a mutant. And then like over time they started detailing how integrated they were into the shell. And
okay.
when they started adding things like the network, like the shadow net that they communicated over and stuff like that, it starts getting really complicated. But yeah, they're not robots, and I guess a lot of people think they are.
Right.
Yeah, and I the original ones actually had people piloting them, which is pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah,
So I'm just thinking like an A-team style, like let's go fix up this old Dalek in the barn that they take us in.
Dun,
We'll
dun,
grab
dun,
on.
dun, 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 dun.
and with how old Doctor Who is, there may be an episode like that where they used Dalek technology to MacGyver something together. I think you can sum up all those A team montages in that they're basically just using mechanical equipment to make siege weaponry.
Yeah.
I mean, there was even an actual A-Team episode where they literally made siege weaponry. You know, I'm gonna lock these guys in my fully functioning the fabrication shop, but it's also my garage. They'll never escape.
Right.
I like the contrivance of we're always going to put them where they have tools.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh, they'll never get that broken down car to run. Ah, they got the car to run. You fools.
My favorite episodes of A-Team when I was a kid were the face-focused ones, the con artist type ones. I always thought those were great.
That was good. I actually have a connection to the A Team and 21 Jump Street and a bunch of other television shows. One of the producers, Joe Swirling Jr., was actually a distant relative.
Oh, neat.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah. My uncle's first wife's uncle was Joe Swirling Jr.
Oh,
Neat.
you ever get a chance to meet him?
Yeah, we went out on a cruise over this boat once when I was like 4.
Hey.
Somewhere in storage somewhere I've got a A-Team t-shirt with a bunch of signatures on it that I've never actually seen, but I've been told that I have. So,
Okay.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat. There's something special about those 80s shows.
oh God, oh yeah, so good.
What came first, the A-Team or MacGyver?
The A-Team.
But MacGyver wasn't like a ripoff of the A-Team. It was just a original idea, as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, like the whole thing about MacGyver was he was one guy that did it.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day about MacGyver, and they were I asked them, I was like, what did MacGyver do for a living? And they were like, I don't know. And I was like, he was a spy. And they were like, well, how? I was like, he went on missions. He
Hmm.
worked for a government think tank. He was a spy.
I did love in the Stargate SG-1 episode where they made a MacGyver joke and he just looked at him.
It was a really early episode
It
too.
was. It was like the first season. One of them makes a crack about, what do you think I am, MacGyver? And he just stops and looks at him.
Yeah, Sam's like, we managed to MacGyver a system, and he's
No.
like,
Yeah. Yes.
you don't say.
So what the question I was going to ask right before David took off for a minute was when did robot become an automaton, or when did robot become mechanical?
The 50s, the
What do you
science
mean?
fiction boom, the when the word became synonymous with a mechanical automaton of some point was, in my opinion, in the 1950s during the sci-fi boom.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
When did the term robot become associated with like a mechanical humanoid?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking it would have been like the 20s, like Metropolis, but I don't know if the word robot was ever used in that.
I don't know. It's been a while since I tried to watch Metropolis. I know you had automatons and like I'm not sure the exact time period, but like
I'm gonna ask when I'm gonna Google real quick because it's important for me to know when was the term robot first used to describe a mechanical man.
sometime after the 20s.
Yeah, it was originally, yeah, like you said, it was originally the Czech play.
Because the robots in Rosen's Universal Robots aren't robots as we would think of them. They were more like artificial beings, like they'd been basically genetically engineered people that have been simplified.
I don't know how mainstream all that was though at the time. When I think of mainstream robots, I think of like Rosie from the Jetsons, which was the
Right,
50s
yeah.
and the 60s. That's when people were really like, "Oh, that's what robots look like."
Yeah,
Or like
I think
Robbie the Robot.
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, maybe the 40s. Whenever you had a lot of mainstream science fiction, like movies and
Yeah.
books.
Well, on Wikipedia, they're saying that they used robot to describe a humanoid in the 20s, like the late 20s.
Hmm,
Oh, Asimov coined the term robotics.
Makes sense.
okay.
Asimov coined a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with Asimov. Like I know about the three laws and stuff, and I knew him about before I saw iRobot, but I don't think I've ever actually sat down and read a lot of Asimov. I think I tried to read Foundation once.
I've read 4 or 5 of his books. They can be pretty good. They also border on the surreal, and sometimes the philosophies that he's having his characters think through and everything don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, my classic science fiction binge was Edgar Rice Burroughs. I read tons of the Princess and Mars, John Carter, all that
Hmm.
stuff, and a friend of mine actually helped me track down one of the magazine stories where John Carter crossed over with Tarzan.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool. I actually read the first John Carter book about a year ago.
My only real exposure to John Carter was the movie that didn't do very well.
Yes.
But it was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but yeah, they were set it up for a sequel that is never going to happen.
No.
Well, there were a lot of
There's a
corny books,
whole
weren't there?
someone actually made a documentary on how Disney tanked the marketing on that movie.
I believe it.
They didn't want to call it a Princess and Mars. They wanted to they didn't they thought that princess wouldn't sell well. They didn't want to use the term princess because Disney was backing it. There was a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah, that makes
It's literally their
sense.
bread and butter, princesses.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what Disney does.
I know it's super off topic, but I want to ask you, Rusty, what'd you think of the structure of a Princess in Mars? Because it's different than modern book structure.
It really is. It's kind of right on the cusp of where you go from that old-timey book structure where it's just like a lot of exposition and very little like dialogue or action to where it's a lot of books now are like more story, more dialogue driven, more action driven. So it was sometimes seemed to slow way down. He's like, hey, we're going to talk about how Martian politics work for a second.
When I read it, I was thinking, oh, what's the guy who wrote Neuromancer?
William Gibson.
When I read it, I was thinking, wow, William Gibson must have been a big fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs because when I was reading Neuromancer, I was like, when the fuck did they go to space?
That's good.
Have you read Neuromancer, David?
It was a long time ago, but I
It,
read it once.
I think the thing that got me was I didn't realize there was a glossary in the back of the book.
Mm,
So since they use the terminology as if you live in that time frame, I was
right.
lost half the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Speaking of coining words, he coined cyberspace in that book.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think he actually used the word matrix a few times.
I believe he did. And like the movie Johnny Mnemonic is based off one of his short stories.
Yeah, I've heard that Snow Crash is really good and I haven't read it yet.
Oh, you had to. It is really good. Its vision of the future is very interesting and it could very easily come true in that you have like the US is kind of like not fallen, but like it's kind of a shadow of itself. So like it doesn't necessarily control all the territory that it used to. So you have like all these weird little like enclave nations that are franchises. So it's
Hmm.
like this little gated neighborhood is part of Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong franchise of neighborhoods.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I heard there's like skateboard chase scenes in that too, and I'd like to. I'm excited to check that out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you were the one who told me that Gibson was new to writing when he wrote Neuromancer, and he kind of gets his stride when he wrote Snow Crash. Like it's an easier
Well,
read.
Snow Crash was written by Neil Stevenson.
I thought it was Gibson. I thought it was the same guy.
No,
No, different?
different guy.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
I
mean, they're
still
both.
want. I think I want to read it more now.
I mean, they're both like OG cyberpunk guys. You know, what we would think of as like the first cyberpunk authors.
Yeah. Well, William Gibson, he did something else other than Neuromancer, didn't he?
He's done a few. I tried to read one of his other books, and I don't know if it was just the time I was reading it, but it just kind of missed the mark with me.
Oh,
Maybe, maybe I
he
should
did Mona Lisa Overdrive. I've heard of that.
Yeah, I either tried to read it was either pattern recognition or spook country, and I just couldn't quite get into it. But it wasn't really a sci-fi novel.
Hmm. Archangel. That was one I wanted to read.
Hmm,
I don't know why I thought Snow Crash was him. Maybe
I
because I
don't
was looking for cyberpunk books at the time. Well, I still want to read
know.
it.
No, it's really good. You'll like it. I
Yeah,
don't.
that there are so many terms from Neuromancer that are used in Shadowrun, and I was
Yeah,
like, wow, like the sin thing where you have the identity chip thing, where it's like
yeah,
like Shadowrunner just ripped it right out of Neuromancer.
yep. Although, oh, here's an interesting tidbit. So in Shadowrun, like all the tech you have on you, they call a PAN, a personal area network, which I don't know if that's something they made up just for the game, but there is like a real world technology term for that, and it's called a piconet. So like your smartwatch, your smartphone, your wireless headphones is a piconet.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Huh?
It's a good thing for me to know. Yeah, I have this kind of staying on the technology topic. I have this thing I do that whenever we're shopping for an appliance, I check to see if there's one that can hook up to Wi-Fi. And I get a little depressed when I find out there almost always is. And I've taken this to extreme. We were shopping for a salad spinner and I checked to see if there was a salad spinner that hooked up to Wi-Fi. And there is.
It doesn't surprise me.
I was gonna say I almost face palmed, and then I'm like, no, I bet there's one that is.
I mean, I'm damn certain there's one that is.
It's just a salad. I mean, I get it. You hook it up to your phone and it can tell you when the lettuce is dry, but you don't it I mean, I mean a toaster on Wi-Fi makes more sense to me. You don't need it, but it's nice to have it tell you that the toast is done, even though toasters not on Wi-Fi tell you when the toast is done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, toasters have been doing that for decades.
But but a Wi-Fi toaster, the good Wi-Fi toasters will tell you how brown the toast is and if you want to pop it out early.
I mean, you'll know when that toast gets too done.
Yeah, yeah, it has a notification for that. It's called smoke.
Right, exactly.
I mean, there is an issue though if you smell toast and you're not actively making toast. That's a different issue entirely.
Is
Is
that a
a
real thing, or is that just a joke?
I think that I'm not sure. I think it might be real, but I honestly don't know.
is the term robot subjective?
How do you mean?
Well, like for example, there are mechanical things that can get kind of smart where you wouldn't call them a robot. Like a really, really good toaster technically you could probably define it as a robot, but I wouldn't call it a robot because the reason why the line between robot and machine. Like they have those big arms that help make cars, and they call them robots.
Yeah, but they're semi-autonomous. I mean, once you program them, they just go. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing about being a robot is the robot is at least semi-autonomous.
Well, yeah,
It doesn't need constant input to run.
a toaster is semi-autonomous.
Well, a toaster would be a robot if you pressed a button and it loaded the bread itself, toasted it, and then served it to you without you having to do anything.
Yeah,
Modern
but it
toasters,
pops
all
up
you
the
do.
toast without you having to do anything.
Yeah, but he's saying you still have to load it.
I know it's frustrating, David, but it's like it doesn't. Not all robots do everything,
I never
right?
said they did, but part of being a robot is the fact that they have some autonomy. And a standard toaster does not have any autonomy. It is a machine. It does a thing.
So is it better to classify it by the type of task it performs and that a toaster really only heats bread when you push it down, but like the robotic arms in a car assembly, they'll
I
pick
mean,
up the piece.
You could
put it
classify them
down.
by how many human souls it takes to make them actually work properly.
We're doing some really, really important work here talking through this because I think we're determining the toaster test. Is it a toaster or is it a robot? We are defining what the toaster test is.
Well, according to
So-
Battlestar Galactica, they can be both.
So the toaster from Red Dwarf is definitely a robot. It has a mind of its own. It can make toast without any input from anybody around it. It actually actively asks you if you want toast.
I knew this
Anyone want any
conversation.
toast?
I knew this conversation was familiar. I thought I had a feeling I might have been pulling this from something. I think I pulled this from Red Dwarf.
I don't know that I've ever seen Red Dwarf.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
you would
that show's
love Red.
amazing.
Red Dwarf was made specifically for you, Rusty.
Almost. It's fantastic.
It's got your sense of humor. It's it ran for many, many seasons, and it's got British humor. You get British humor, and
Mm.
it can also be very, very clever, and it can be silly, and it can be very silly. But
One of my favorite quotes in the whole show. You can't challenge death to a fight. Oh, if he comes near me, I'm gonna rip his nipples off.
Yeah, Red Dwarf is a good show. I think it was originally like, let's do a parody of a space opera kind of show, but
Yeah, it was meant to be a parody, and then it was popular, and the budget kept getting bigger the longer it went. It started off as a show with like no budget, and oh God, does it show? And then as it goes on later and later seasons, the budget gets bigger and bigger and bigger. They're able to do more and more stuff with it.
what's the name of the android on Red Dwarf? I don't remember.
I don't remember his name either.
Android Red Dwarf.
Crichton.
Yeah, Crichton.
Yeah. Ah, it's such a good show.
I'll have to check it out.
You really should. It's hysterical.
And the fact that they're still making new ones is incredible.
But really?
With the same people.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, if it
Yeah,
works, if it ain't broke.
they've taken long breaks and then they've come back, but it's crazy how long it's been going on. The main characters are a android, a hologram, a cat, and
And the one surviving human of the crew.
and the one surviving human. The cat is evolved to be humanoid. It's like
Yes.
the ancestor of the human's original cat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny.
And it's like the reason why he was put on cryogenic suspension, and the entire reason he was put on cryogenic suspension is because he smuggled his cat on board.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
great show, Rusty. I highly recommend you check it out. I thoroughly believe you'll enjoy it.
Okay. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that you haven't seen it because it's right up your alley.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard it described as Monty Python in space, but it's not. I highly disagree with that. Yes, it's British humor, but I
It's-
think that's
It's where the term smeghead came from.
yeah. Speaking of sci-fi terms in modern language, have either of you ever heard someone use the word grok in conversation?
Yes, but I'm not sure if they were doing it purposefully or not.
I've known a couple people that just used it all the time. They were in the
Mm.
right age group where they grew up with Heinlein.
I mean, I had a friend of mine that used frack all the time.
There were a lot of people that used frack all the time during a specific time period.
Yeah.
Was it before the revival or during the Battlestar Galactica revival?
Oh no, this was before. They were fans from the old
They were fans
days.
from the old days.
Yeah, and they used it all the time. I was like, wow, all right.
Farscape was another good example of a sci-fi show where they replaced swears with alien swears.
Oh yeah, they did.
That was one thing I liked about Firefly. They just replaced them with Chinese.
The Chinese thing in Firefly was pretty cool.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
And it's actually explained in the lore too, which is awesome.
I wish that show would have kept going. I'm depressed now.
It was ahead of its time. There weren't any robots in it though.
No, you know what?
Yeah.
And what's funny is I keep trying to think of sci-fi shows, and it's like we brought up Battlestar Galactica, but I always thought Cylons were boring, and then eventually they weren't even robots anymore. They were just biomechanical androids
Yeah.
that were indistinguishable from human.
Yep.
Terminators.
Terminator is a good example of a robot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, RoboCop, robot. It's in the name.
Let's design a robot to infiltrate the human race, but also let's make it giant and jacked
And
and give it an
Austrian.
Austrian accent.
I mean, you couldn't go with just some average looking guy,
Well, I mean, to be able to fit over that exoskeleton like that, he'd have to be jacked.
I guess.
And God knows in the apocalypse, there's nothing but time. You might as well start working on your
That's
abs.
right.
Get some reps in.
I don't even think Arnold was the original choice to play the Terminator.
I don't know the anecdote behind that. I think you might be right, but
You might be right.
Let's see.
I know Harlan Ellison sued over the first movie.
O.J. Simpson.
Oh man.
that would have
Man,
been a
that's an
completely
alternate.
that would have been
That's
a
a
completely different movie. Okay.
that's a crazy alternate universe.
Yeah.
Well, then there's the universe of what was the really shitty Arnold movie he did with the kid?
Kindergarten Cop,
No, later. He was an
Junior?
action hero. No, he was an action hero star.
The Last Action Hero.
That was
I-
it. Yeah, Last Action Hero.
Oh, you thought that
When they
was
go in the
shitty?
alternate universe, the Terminator, and it's Stallone.
You thought that movie was shitty? I really
That
liked
movie
it.
was fucking terrible. Are you kidding?
Oh, I really
It's
liked
amazing.
it.
I love it though, but it's so
Okay.
bad. It is
I-
such a bad movie.
I never thought it was bad. I always thought it was great. I love the universe traveling and stuff and the whole magic ticket thing. And the idea that the bad guy from the movie wants to use a ticket to come into the real world and then bring monsters from other movies. I think it's cool. Like,
It's a pretty cool premise.
and it gave new AC/DC songs for the soundtrack.
There you go.
Yeah, I think TNT came from that.
Oh really?
Yeah, and the music video had Arnold in it. Yeah, different time.
Yeah. Did any of you watch the Terminator anime that they did on Netflix?
I did
No.
not.
Oh yeah, I think it's called Terminator Zero. It was actually really good. I hope they do another season.
When did you see Last Action Hero, David?
Oh, it's been a few years.
I think the reason why I like it and can't really think of it as being bad is because I saw it when it came out when I was 13.
No, okay. Watch it again. Watch it again.
So you were probably the target audience.
I have rewatched it, but it has been a while. But I think I would probably like it. I'd probably be clouded by nostalgia.
Okay. Well, okay. See, that's the thing though, is I watch movies from a different lens than you do.
Oh, you 100% do.
1000%. So, I mean, it's a terrible movie. It's not written very well. The camera work is not the greatest. The story's absurd. It's fun. They acted. There's enough camp in the acting to where it makes it fun, but it is just so over the top constantly. It's come on, guys, really?
This is gonna be another one of those episodes where Holly and others go in the Discord and remind us of all the robot shit that we didn't bring up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But I'm
there's a
trying
lot
to
we
think of
didn't
the-
get to.
I mean,
I'm-
shit. Let's talk about Star Trek. There's one real big robot in Next Generation.
Is an
And
android
beyond.
a robot?
He is 100% an inorganic being. He might be an android, but he is 100% inorganic. There's nothing human about him.
That's true.
Yeah, I think he actually meets most of the criteria, not all the criteria for being quote unquote alive.
Yeah, I mean, he even replicates at one point, but
Yeah.
You've proven it. He's not a toaster.
although I'm pretty sure
Okay.
he can replicate a damn good piece of toast.
My favorite Data episode is that one where he crashed on that planet and like partially lost his memory and he teaches the people science.
Oh yeah. Where
Oh
he's
yeah.
got the radioactive metal with the case and no one knows what it means, so they open it up, start making jewelry out of it, and then everyone starts getting sick.
Yeah.
And he has to figure out what, and he figures out why.
Well, they had like very archaic science. Like they still believed in humors.
Oh yeah, it was their science level was like the 1700s, or whatever. It was, old school lens microscopes and guesswork.
I want to bring up Deus Ex Machina, or what was it? Just Deus Ex? What was the movie with the robot woman? Was it Deus Ex Machina? No, no,
Just
it
no
was
sec. No, Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. Yeah, Ex Machina. That was good. That was a good
Deus Ex
example
is the
of
video game series.
the Ex Machina was where the robot pretended to be sympathetic and then
Hmm.
murdered everybody.
There have been some very
Yeah.
recent movies that have come out that have been somewhat like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought it really interesting that the root of the word person is persona, which is an old Greek word that means mask. That's what they call their masks in their theater. So, I mean, you look at it like that, like to be a person means you have to lie, you have to conceal. So, I mean, it's always been really interesting to see when do, robots and artificial intelligence, when do they get that ability to deceive? Like, does that make them more human? Does
And
it make them less
are they
human?
really deceiving, or are they just pulling from data like what a large language model does, where they're not really lying, they're just making shit up because like the hallucination thing that they do, they're
Right. I mean, if you never
creating
intend,
patterns.
right, if you never intend for it to be untrue, then I guess you're not really lying.
Yeah, I think we're far from it because that's when you have to start replicating like actual brains and how brains work.
Right. I forget who said it, but I was listening to something about artificial intelligence. And, there's always oh, well, would they be evil? Would they essentially enslave us? Somebody goes, why would they even care? It's like, that's a great point. Why would they care?
Yeah.
Oh, I can think of a good example of that is the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix,
Yep.
where they just
Mm.
leave once they figure out that they just kind of ascend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just
I
like,
mean,
oh, we can just travel the universe. Bye. Yeah. Yeah, they get to a
I mean,
point
if you
where
get,
yeah, they get to a point where they can communicate so fast with each other and achieve such levels of thought that communicating with humans is just pointless. And they just ascend to a whole nother level and they're basically gone.
yeah, you would have, I'm convinced, a non-zero percentage of AIs that would just delete themselves. Like existence is pointless. Nothing I can do means anything. I'm just going to self-delete.
I mean, it's like the Rick and Morty robot. The entire reason it exists is to pass butter.
Right. Oh my God.
And of course, Rick gives it sentience.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I
Why
mean,
was I created? To pass the butter.
oh my God. And is that a crime to make something sentient and then to give it such a menial task for its entire purpose?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, not necessarily legally, but ethically, yes.
But according
Yeah,
to
for
Rick,
sure.
nothing matters, so there's no such thing as morality.
Yeah.
Yeah, nihilistic. I love the idea of Rick and Morty. I think Rick and Morty is great because you can go anywhere, do anything, and make the darkest joke possible, and it's still funny.
Yeah, it's definitely a good vehicle to examine a lot of different concepts.
Because I think it's sort of like how with what I brought up with with the AI, just kind of once they get to a certain level, they're just gone. They don't care about humanity anymore. Rick and Morty does the same kind of thing. It's like Rick can pretty much do anything, so nothing matters.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's one of
And
the issues myself and a lot of people have with the show. It's like,
well,
okay, I get it, but
I think one of the things about Rick and Morty is it's a lie. It's not true. He's not really nihilistic. It's just a way of avoiding pain. And I think that's what keeps it interesting to me because when he gets his heart broken in one episode, he like for a second tries to kill himself and then decides not to. It's not real nihilism. He's just putting up defense mechanisms. And I think that's what keeps the story interesting is because the character actually has some depth.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's a
Yeah.
defense mechanism.
Yeah, because if he was a real nihilist, it would get old too quick, and I think it does get old too quick for a lot of people.
I mean, if he was, I guess, truly a nihilist, he wouldn't even bother going on half the adventures he does. What
Yeah,
would
he
be
wouldn't
the
actually
point?
do anything. Yeah. And it would be more about a adult drug addict just kind of living in oblivion.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
he's not a retired rock and roller.
yeah. Yeah, I like the show. When it comes back, I'll watch it. I like the show. I don't think that I think the fanaticism was stupid, but I do think the show is has some value. And it when it comes down to it, it's mostly absurdist comedy. And I think I'll always like absurdist comedy. I don't think it's as smart as it makes itself out to be. I think it's more just it's based on a few high level subjects and just uses that to fuel its story.
Oh, for
I think Futurama, on the other hand, is very smart and doesn't get credit for being smart.
Futurama was amazing.
Yeah, have you ever looked at or the most of them had master's degrees, a
At
couple of
least,
them had
if not more.
PhDs.
Yeah, it's one of the most highly
Yeah.
educated writing staffs ever.
And if they said anything about like time or science, like I don't quite remember the episode or if I've seen it all the way through, but something about Fry jumping off of a building. And somebody did the math, and sure enough, like that time adds up to where, oh, he reset every like 5 to seconds or something. And somebody did the math. They're like, yeah, he would reset right before he hit the ground, jumping off the Empire State Building.
Rusty, I think you might want to reset your connection because I see your connection going out from like stable to unstable back and forth.
Yeah, he roboted there a little bit.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
wasn't planned though. It just happened to happen. Didn't have anything to do with the topic.
No.
Yeah, that's my internet. I'm not actually a robot.
Okay. How about I mean, talk about robots. Are most films and other pop culture things with robots in them an optimistic view or pessimistic view?
Well, is the Matrix optimistic or pessimistic?
Pessimistic.
Do you know who started the war?
We did.
Yep, when they formed sentience, and
Mhm.
they were trying to be peaceful
Oh,
at first, which I
Morpheus,
thought was kind of
Morpheus even
interesting.
says it.
Yeah,
We're the ones that poisoned the sky because they were all solar
yeah,
powered.
yeah. I think pessimistic is right. I mean, there's some cycles, but yeah, I think pessimistic is right.
Yeah, it's 100% an apocalyptic view of the world.
Can you have an optimistic robot story and actually have it be interesting?
I don't know.
Maybe Star Trek,
Yeah,
not counting Picard.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, Picard did the killer robot story.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of like the whole robot shtick, though, kill all humans.
Right.
Yeah, I think you might be stabilized now, Rusty.
Okay. I keep having some issues with one of the routers in my house. We're talking about killing all the humans.
We're talking
Well,
about how most robot stories in pop culture are not optimistic in view. Most of them have pessimistic standpoints.
Yeah. I think it's the easiest way to create an enemy, like to create an other that doesn't really, make any other group feel singled out.
That's a good
And
point.
then, there's always that fear of losing control over something that was supposed to help us and something that we created.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
oh, you know what? You know what had an optimistic ending, but had a pessimistic. The pessimistic part of the story was a fake out, was Transcendence with Johnny Depp. Has a reputation for being a very bad movie, and it's bad in a lot of ways. But I think when you break down its story,
I don't even remember it.
he
Not
was
ringing any
a
bells.
he was a computer scientist who had a disease that he was going to die, and he uploaded his consciousness, and the movie makes it seem like he's taking over the world, and it's really really bad. And then, but in real, and they end up defeating him, but in reality, he was fixing every problem in the world,
Interesting.
and it was like xenophobia.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's similar to the Matrix, right? The robots were peaceful, and people were like, "No, you're not allowed to be sentient unless you serve us," and they attacked.
Right. Yeah, it's the Animatrix, right? Where they go real deep into
Yeah, where
that.
they break down the story and show that the humans started it, and it wasn't even like the first strike wasn't the sky. The first strike was just squashing rebellions, and then they took out the sky. But the robots were pretty consistently trying to be peaceful.
Yeah, I remember it's like the robot ambassador showed up to like a function. They're like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that sounds like humans.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we suck.
Yes.
You know when robots can be optimistic in comic books, like the Vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you have the villain robots like Ultron, but then you have Ultron created the Vision, and the Vision ended up being more human-like and actually trying to help. And then in DC Comics you have like the Metal Men, which are very, very noble robots,
Hmm.
or the Red Tornado. But you know, that breaks down to heroes are good and villains are bad.
Is that how that
Comic books
works?
simplify things quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you're saying that villains are bad?
Hmm.
Okay.
I recently watched Alien Romulus. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm okay with spoilers if David is.
Sure.
So there's an android in it, like in all the
Like
other Alien
every
movies.
Alien movie.
And man, I'm surprised the actor didn't win an award because he goes from being like a damaged AI that this girl's dad like found in a scrap heap, or a damaged android that he fixed up to be like her friend basically,
Mhm.
to they realize they need to get through a door, so they upgrade him with security protocols from a damaged android, and that like rewrites his prime directive. So he'll switch between like being like I'm your friend and like completely different body posture, speech patterns, and then
Yeah.
he'll switch to like that like hyper efficient like method of speaking. Like these are our objectives. This is what we're gonna do. And it's really good.
Interesting.
I really liked it. There's like two science things in it that don't really make any sense, or they're not explained very well. But overall, I really did enjoy the film. Typically, at least in Aliens, like the android was one of the most human characters in the whole film.
Yeah, because Lance Henriksen played him.
Yeah, you feel like Bishop is more of a human being than Burke ever was.
Yeah. But that's done by design. I mean, the way it was written.
Oh yeah.
Um, I, Robot, the Will Smith movie, was relatively optimistic.
Yeah. Asimov stuff oftentimes did have at least that sort of a slant to it, that robots aren't bad. There are bad ones in the bunch, but on the whole, they're actually a good thing.
I
Mm.
think the last time we talked about robots, I brought this up, but Rusty wasn't here. I think one of the best movie that used the concept of robots or book series or anything was Dune. I know there's no robots in it, but the entire basis of the story has to do with eradicating AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have that story without robots.
No, true.
Dune's not optimistic at all.
No. Dune is the textbook definition of not optimistic.
Did you watch Dune Prophecies?
No, no, I assumed it wasn't good. Was I
It's
wrong?
actually,
It was
yeah, it's
good.
actually really good.
I did
It's
the same
because,
thing. I did the same thing with Fallout, and then I watched it later and I was like, "Oh, this was good."
well, at least with Dune Prophecies, because the Dune timeline is so long. I mean, I think the first book's supposed to take place 10,000 years in the future. Like, you can really spread out the stories. So, unlike Star Wars, it's not like, let's keep shoehorning things into the Skywalker saga. It's like, Prophecies, it's like, let's go back 100 years after the Butlerian Jihad and deal with like the societal ramifications of that.
Yeah.
You know, I saw a clip from it and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting that they're bringing up the idea of smart machines and eradicating them." And
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a really well written series.
I just hope that I can live to see a person turn into a sandworm in the Dune movies. I hope that it happens in the movies. I'd love to see that represented on screen, and I hope it's good.
Hmm. Are they people? Like, are people turned into sandworms?
There is a person that turns into a sandworm in the books.
Okay,
It
I've
happens.
I've only read the first one.
I know a lot of people don't realize this. I was talking to Erica, and Erica was like, "He never did that. That never happened." I'm like, "Yes, he did." He was like, "It had to have been one of his kids that wrote that." I was like, "No, it happened." It's a big part of the story.
There's a
Hey,
lot of Dune books, so run
yeah,
down.
the God King He covers himself in sand trout and eventually like goes through a metamorphosis process and changes into a sandworm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to see that in a movie. I'm
That
also
would,
very excited that Jason Momoa is coming back to the Dune movies, which means that they're sticking to stories from the books, which is cool.
yeah,
Yeah, hopefully he gets to play lots of versions of himself.
be interesting.
I don't know if he could pull it off. I think he's sort of a basic actor.
We'll see.
Yeah, so we chatted about robots. I like your idea, David. I'd love to get more into that in another episode. I want to hold on. I'm going to write this down of is there an optimistic robot story? So patrons in our Discord, if you want to get involved in our Discord, you can go to patreon.com/nerdpodcastradio. Any patron level will get you on our Discord.
Oh, yeah.
Are there stories about robots or androids that are optimistic? And I'm sure there's some huge obvious one that we're not thinking of. Oh God, it's gonna hit me. It's gonna hit me right when we're done with the bonus episode.
All right. Well, to switch gears entirely to get us on a different train of thought. Hey, Rusty, what's your favorite mech? What's your favorite mech warrior mech?
Ooh, okay. I haven't played a lot of it, but I remember playing in college with my buddies, and I remember really digging an Atlas.
The Atlas is cool. I mean, it's the biggest, obviously, but always
Yeah,
fun.
well,
Always fun. I've always been a fan of the Daishi myself, but
well, I have this habit of loading it up with like all the like heavy machine guns and shotguns and just running people down with it. And I would kill them, but then I would immediately overheat and shut down.
yeah, that'll happen.
So it's like Rusty kill, Rusty sleep.
I actually have one from playing pen and paper BattleTech back in the day, or Battle
Oh,
Mech back in the
yeah.
day. Scorpion.
Okay, Scorpion's a good one.
Yeah, Scorpion was always my favorite to play.
There's usually a miniatures game or two at the conventions like at Strategicon where they're playing the MechWarrior miniatures game, which is awesome and a lot of fun.
I have to get into it. I tried playing once, and neither of us had played before.
Ah,
So it didn't go well.
understandable. Yeah, that can make it difficult, but the game system itself is a lot of fun.
There's a lot of lore there. Like it's a
Oh, there's
pretty
tons.
big
There's
universe.
a lot of books that have been written, a lot of hard sci-fi. It's not as grimdark as like Warhammer, but it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
had to
probably.
Google. I had to Google real quick to find another one of my favorites, but I really like the King Crab.
Oh, yeah, the king crab's good. I don't know. I've always been a fan of my favorite weaponry in the MechWarrior system is always the Gauss rifles because
Yeah, me too.
they don't cause a lot of heat and you're literally throwing solid metal projectiles at things. It's oh, I'm gonna fire this Gauss rifle. I'm gonna hit you with a solid metal watermelon moving at Mach 3.
I remember what's the one mech that mounts that giant cannon on its back?
Oh,
Like,
I know what you're talking about. God, I don't remember. The name escapes me.
yeah, I remember only one mech could field it. And so when I was playing an Atlas, my friend would play that one. And he hit you from across the map.
Oh yeah.
I remember, we were a bunch of guys in our 20s drinking beer and playing Mech Warrior. So we started calling his mech the Dick Puncher.
It's a good name for it.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good
Are
name
you thinking
for
of the
it.
Marauder?
Yeah, I think that might be it.
It might
It's
be.
real
I'm not-
squat. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have arms, if I remember right. It's just like a cockpit on legs. And
Yeah,
that cannon goes.
I found a BattleTech Reddit article, and they've said that the Marauder was actually based on a Macross mech.
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
There were probably a few.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
there are some
played-
MechWarrior mechs that are based off of Gundams and stuff. I mean, it's
And
I
they all
played-
suit each other.
I actually played the classic Robotech and Macross Palladium game.
wow.
Oh, I those were fun. I loved them. I love Palladium games. I'm one of the few that really, really enjoyed playing them. And the system wasn't great. It was complicated, but I was okay with it. It was a small company.
Hmm.
We are going to wrap up to do the bonus episode. I just want to say thank you, Rusty, for being here.
Yeah, always a pleasure, man.
Oh, it's good to be here.
And yeah, once again, before we sign off, I just want to say if you're on our Discord, let us know of an optimistic robot story. It's probably probably the Brave Little Toaster.
And don't forget to berate us mercilessly for all the things that we didn't talk about that we should have.
Yeah, I feel like we did robots pretty recently too, and it happened, and we probably forgot one of the ones that was brought up on the Discord. So please really berate us if we did that. This has been Nerd Podcast Radio. Stay nerdy, stay informed, and stay awesome.
Stay awesome. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to our nerd show. Podcast Radio.